Alright, so chapter 201 of One Punch Man is finally freaking here. I don't think I gotta tell you guys that we have been waiting way too long for this chapter. It seems like forever. But hey, Murata needed to get some stuff done. All that matters is that we have this chapter now, right? And man, was it worth the wait. We see hands down one of the most powerful attacks we've ever seen in the series here, and it's drawn absolutely beautifully. And of course, at the very end, we finally get the return of Blast. And the really exciting part about this chapter is that since the ending is different from the previous version, I feel like the door is left wide open with what's going to happen next, because from here on out we're going to be getting brand new chapters, stuff that we have not seen before. The redraws are finally over, so we can celebrate that. But enough of that, let's get right into the chapter. So if you guys remember, in the previous chapter, Empty Void had touched Sonic and Flashy Flash with the God Cubes. First he gets Sonic, and then he ends up getting Flashy Flash, which is where we go into this dream sequence with him, where he's at the same age that he was when he was in the Ninja Village, and he wakes up on this hilly plain with the sunset in the distance. There he sees Sonic staring on. Well, they have this conversation about starting their own Ninja Village like they always dreamed of, and Sonic extends his hand to grab Flashy's, but low-key it's not really Sonic, it's actually God disguising himself. Now this is something we've seen God do in the past, like he tried doing with Garo and Tatsumaki, trying to take the appearances of Blast and also Bang. It seems like God takes the form of whoever the target respects most, so that's some pretty big praise for Sonic from Flashy Flash. Well, in the original version of the manga, at the very beginning of this chapter, Flashy Flash gets knocked out of the dream sequence, with Sonic slashing the illusion away, but in this one I think it's done in a much more cool way, because we cut back to the same scene of Sonic extending his hand to grab Flashy's, but immediately afterwards it turns into a fist and straight up nails Flashy right in the face. And then we find out that it's Sonic in the real world punching Flashy in the face to knock him out of the dream sequence. So I thought that was a pretty cool touch. It was much more in character for Sonic to do something like that. And in a minute we actually get something confirmed that I had talked about in the previous chapter review, you know, the one that most of you guys hated because I didn't talk very highly of it. Anyway, Flashy Flash breaks out of the trance, and of course Empty Void is surprised that they did so, and Sonic was like, I hope you didn't fall for his twisted tricks. And Flashy Flash is just thinking to himself like, yeah, I kinda did. But of course Flashy being Flashy, he's not going to admit it. So then Empty Void explains something that I have been bringing up in these chapter reviews. I've been feeling kind of like the Sonic defender lately, because this entire arc it seems like Flashy Flash has been showing up Sonic, like having more destructive moves, being much faster than him, and Sonic's been low-key noticing it, even though he hasn't admitted it. But it seems like Empty Void is also a part of the Sonic fan club like I am, because he ends up mentioning that Sonic and Flashy Flash are like equals, something that he dislikes, and they're both confused by this statement, especially Flashy because he thinks that he's way stronger than him obviously. And Empty Void elaborates by saying that when it comes to raw speed and strength, Flashy Flash has the leg up, but Sonic's mental fortitude is much stronger than Flashy Flash's. And in the previous chapter review, I was pointing out that Sonic's mental fortitude seemed to be much stronger than Flashy Flash's, because it was made apparent throughout this entire arc with various comments that were made towards them. Like for example, whenever Sonic was faced with an uphill battle in this arc, it's like he pictured Sonic and realized that all these guys are insignificant compared to him. They're not the level of power he's looking to reach, so they're only stepping stones for him. But in Flashy Flash's case, he still seems to be traumatized from the Monster Association arc and still tries to reject the idea that there are people out there that are faster than him. There's always going to be someone out there faster than him, and he does not like that idea at all. So Sonic definitely has Flashy beat in mental fortitude, which I think is equally as important as physical strength, because Sonic would be able to push on in a fight for much longer. So finally my boy Sonic is getting the respect he deserves. But they kind of shrug this comment off, and both decide to attack Empty Void all at once. Well, this is when Empty Void does some like crazy dimensional trickery. Not sure what's real and what isn't, to be honest. So Empty Void pretty much turns into a donut and disappears, and then Empty Void gets transported to this like dimensional universal type space. I don't really know what to call it, to be honest. It looks like there's almost all these mini worlds around him. In the manga they actually call them parallel worlds, and he's doing something called body branching. I'm not sure what they're going to call it in the official translations, but in here it's called body branching, and I feel like I've seen this be a ninja trope in the past, like being able to separate your soul from your body if you meditate long enough, stuff like that. I'm not really sure if that's what's happening here, because he's completely disappearing in front of Flashy Flash and Sonic, but inside of one of these little worlds is Flashy and Sonic, and Empty Void is like giant hovering over them. So then he starts doing all these crazy hand signs, and once he finishes doing the hand signs, he pulls out one of his blades, and this is when we realize that this is him setting up the dimensional slash, the same slash that we saw earlier in this arc when Blast teleported the entirety of the Hero Association away. And then we saw those massive slashes completely destroy the ground that they were sitting on. Well, yeah, they're back, and this time Flashy Flash is aware of them. And what I also thought was pretty interesting is that this dimensional space that Empty Void is entering, it's said to be occurring outside side of causality, or at least that's kind of how the manga is describing it right now. Again, it'll be more clear with better translations. But when I read causality, it reminded me of the Zero Punch from Saitama. Back when he went back in time to stop Garo from pretty much destroying the world, it was said that Saitama's Zero Punch was a reversal of causality. So it started getting me to thinking that maybe this dimensional slash, maybe these powers that Empty Void is using right now, operate on like the same principles as the Zero Punch did. Something that has to do with dimensional space and causality, probably something that somebody much smarter than me can explain. If you have a good explanation as to how these moves are related, or how like causality power might be like the strongest ability in One Punch Man right now, let us know in the comments, make us all a little bit smarter. So in the nick of time, he gives Sonic the heads up, and they both evade the slashes, even though they leave some pretty insane damage. They still manage to dodge them, or at least Flashy thinks that he's the only one that dodged them because he looks over to Sonic, and it looks like Sonic is straight up split in half, which obviously shocks Flashy Flash, but it turns out to be one of the illusions of Empty Void, because he teleports back to them with the God Cube and gets ready to touch Flashy Flash with it once again. I'm guessing he chose Flashy Flash instead of Sonic because he has more raw physical power, at least right now, and Sonic has technically rejected the powers of a monster twice now. Once when he was handed a monster cell from Hellfire and Gale Wind, and now this second time. So he's probably thinking like, yeah, it's not going to work on Sonic anyway, I'm just going to go straight for Flashy Flash. And on that note, I'm also kind of bummed out that we didn't get to see Sonic's dream sequence. In the previous chapter, it was like this comical sequence where the monster cells are like cooking themselves and putting themselves on a plate for him. But I mean, I understand why they might have removed it, or at least I thought I did until I saw the end of this chapter, because it was kind of like a comical sequence. And if they were going to make this chapter much more serious and much more dire, then it would make sense cutting out that like comical stuff, like not make stuff funny to kind of like ruin the tone or whatever. But like I said, that argument kind of goes away with what happens next, because just before Flashy Flash is touched with the God Cube again, finally our boy Blast comes in and nails Empty Void right in the face with a dimensional knuckle. So it turns out that back when Flashy Flash and Blast were talking, like just before Flashy Flash left to go meet up Sonic, Blast said that he was going to leave him to his own devices and teleported away. Well, what he said really happened is that he pretended to teleport away and followed Flashy Flash all the way here. And that's what he tells Flashy Flash and Sonic. But in his mind, he kind of lets us know reality, that he had actually lost track of Flashy Flash back there, but it wasn't until he saw the dimensional slash that he's like, oh, that's where he is. So I thought that was kind of funny, like Flashy Flash is so fast that even Blast lost track of him, or maybe he lost track of him for some other reason, but whatever. But he tries to show up acting all cool like he followed him all the way there, but in reality he had lost him and just found him right then and there, which is a testament to Blast's speed, because that happened within like half a second. And that kind of explains why Blast didn't show up until this very moment. He lost track of Flashy Flash, so he didn't have a chance to stop in and see like the fight between them and the Heavenly Ninja Party, or the beginning of their fight with Empty Void. As soon as he did the dimensional slash, that's when he came through and knew where they were. So narratively, that makes things make more sense, honestly. I'm kind of glad they put that in there. But to close out the chapter, Blast pats them both on the back and says, good job, you guys rejected the power of the cubes. You passed. And that's where the chapter ends. Now, when he says you passed, I'm not exactly sure what he means by that. Are they going to join his like galactic team of Justice League people now? I'm not really sure, but we're going to find out in next chapter, which is going to be brand new content that we have never seen before. Redraws are over, and what's also very exciting is that I recently started a new YouTube channel. It's called No Filler. I'll leave it linked in the description below. If you guys enjoy much longer, in-depth, and detailed anime-related videos, make sure to subscribe to No Filler. I'm putting a lot of time into the quality of these videos, and the first video is going to debut in about a week or so. So do me a solid, show me some support over there. Show me some support here if you feel like it. That is it for this one though. Have an absolutely wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, whatever, and I'll see you guys in the next video.